Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This stunning gentleman right across from me, his name is Tim, and this is The Second Legacy, and thank you so much for stopping by. Today, we have so much goodness to spread across this fruited plain of freedom. We are going to talk about civil disobedience that seems to be growing in the little state called Illinois, and then we also have Maryland, which is digging its heels in and saying, I don't wanna when it comes to unconstitutional gun rights. Oh, man. Tim, this is going to be a great day. And your G3 segment is one for the ages. Y'all are going to want to love every single second of this. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. And now let's get into this. Tim, you have a haircut, so you must be ready.
Have a haircut? Yes. I chopped my hair from yesterday. And
Yep.
Yeah.
Looks good.
I'm ready to go. Yep.
I
need a real haircut though, but I won't go into that.
You do. But not the faux mullet that you don every once in a while.
No, but when the hair starts to touch my ear, I get annoyed.
Oh, it's the worst.
It is.
You are so. I believe on the streets they call that ratchet. Yes, they do. You are ratchet indeed. Well, Tim, Mr. Ratchet, what do you want to do here? I'm going to let you do choice because you know how much I like you. You want to talk about some Maryland digging in the heels like a stubborn mule, or do you want to talk about some signs of civil disobedience brewing in Illinois first?
I'm all about the civil disobedience, and this kind of touches a nerve across the nation because this isn't the first time we've seen it. We've seen it at the federal level. We've seen it at the state level. And I think it's worth discussing because people need to know they have options.
Of which, by the way, this is an amazing time to say we don't endorse any.
We don't endorse people breaking the law. We do not encourage people breaking the law, but you have the right to do what you want. And if you want to commit acts of civil disobedience, it is your right as an American to do so. There might be consequences. Right? Yeah. Just like gluing your hand to a sidewalk, you can get degloved.
It's exactly like that. That's exactly like that. It's I believe this qualifies and falls under the you do you, boo. That's what right. I like to put that under there. And now as we get into this, is the doctor in? Is he
I got hairy legs.
Yes, he is, and he's got hairy legs. All right, let's dive into some civil disobedience from Illinois. It turns out, and this is from Bearing Arms, so hat tip to them. Signs of civil disobedience in Illinois gun registration efforts. Now, if you guys have been living under a rock, Illinois passed an assault weapons ban, of which they basically said a bunch of things are banned and you need to register your items. Well, Tim, how do you think that's going? How do you think that's complying?
Well, historically, it's never played out well for the tyrants that have imposed such draconian measures. And it looks like they're falling flat again. But hey, I did read an article where the state is optimistic that at the last minute, people are going to race in and register themselves. They're not ready to throw in the towel yet. But I have some bad news for them. If you take a look at history, it hasn't played out well in Connecticut, didn't play out well in Colorado, didn't even play out well for the feds when they tried it with bump stocks and braces.
True.
Nobody complies. And
it's weird.
Yeah. Strange, huh?
It's odd. In fact, I think the quote you're referencing is coming up in a second. Something about a flood of new regulations, and I can't wait to get to it. But before we get to the hopes and dreams and the copium, let me show you the actual numbers, Tim. You, as a man of intelligence, you are going to love these numbers. Allow me to get my narration voice on for this. There's just a little more than a month left before Illinois gun owners must register their so-called assault weapons with the state police or risk the possibility of criminal charges if they're caught with their modern sporting rifle. And so far, it looks like many gun owners are willing to run that risk. As of November 21st, fewer than 3,500 gun owners have registered some 6,600 newly banned firearms with the state police, about 0.001% of the state's 2.4 million legal gun owners. But don't worry, Tim. They'll do it eventually.
God bless them. You can tell this was written by a
0.001, dude.
You can tell this was written by a pro-gun blog because they used the term modern sporting rifle.
Exactly right. They threw that in there. It was so good. It's so good. And here comes the hopium because this whole thing is glorious. This is number 3. So for state officials who are downplaying the lack of compliance, suggesting there'll be a flood of new registration as we get closer to the January 1 deadline. Flood. There's a flood coming. Where's Noah and his ark? Get ready.
Yeah, people are milking it, you know. They pull the pin on that grenade. They're just sitting there. They're counting down.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And
just rolling that dice, baby.
They're going to chuck it. Yeah, 3 or 4, they're going to heave it. And they're going to just all mass show up and overwhelm the system because that's their actual act of noncompliance. Is just it's kind of like showing up to pay your taxes with pennies. They're just trying to annoy them. You know, no, Illinois, no, it ain't going to happen. They're not going to do it. I used to live in Illinois, and I hate admitting this. I used to live there. I didn't know any better when I first moved there. I immediately got out.
Oh my gosh.
My first clue I'd messed up was I walked into Gat Guns in Dundee, Illinois, and I said, "Hey, can I see that pistol?" And they said, "Hey, can I see your FOID card?" I'm like, "Hey, what the hell's that?" And they said, "Oh, you can't even touch a gun in this state unless you have one." I'm like, I guess I'm in trouble because I got a whole damn house full of them. But
I'm in the wrong state.
so anyway, but anyway, what I will say is up north around Chicago, yeah, it's far left, crazy, anti-gun, everything.
Yes.
But as you get
Facts.
away from that and you get downstate, it's a very rural community. They're very conservative and they love their firearms, just like most Americans.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to comply with the dictates of the northern Marxists. They're going to stick with the freedom.
Oh.
And they're gonna hold their middle finger high, and God bless them for doing it.
Well, we're at 0.001, Tim. So you know what? Look at it this way: there's room to grow. There is, and there's a flood coming. It's amazing. In fact, Pritzker, that guy, he's such a peach. This is number 4. Listen to his wise words when someone asked him if no one cares what he says. Quote, I can tell you, at least for me, that I think all of us take our time sometimes when we know the deadline is 2.5 months away and that we'll find time eventually to go online, which is what they need to do and to register as they're required to do, Pritzker said. Mm-hmm. So he's chalking this up to, it's not that they're not complying. Everyone loves our unconstitutional gun laws. I signed it. I know they love it. They clapped. They're just procrastinating.
Yeah. They're waiting until the last minute to hit submit,
Nailed it.
This is what, in Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken, they hit the deadline and nobody complied. Yeah. And so then they extended it, thinking that, well, maybe now they'll do it. And
they procrastinated.
They didn't comply. Yeah, the state procrastinated. Man. It's just, oh my goodness. It was so funny. And same thing with Colorado when they passed their magazine ban. Mm-hmm. Oh, you can't have those. And all the sheriffs came out and said, yeah, we're not enforcing that. And so people just openly use their, standard capacity magazines all over the state of Colorado, and nobody cares. And they've even given up on enforcement, I think. I don't know, but you never seen stories.
But they have the virtue signal, though, Tim. They have the virtue signal because, after all, they probably got their A- rating from Giffords.org and Everytown for Gun Safety. So therefore they are safer. They are. Yep. They are. It's for the children. It's for the children. Well, there's good news, Tim. And once again, you read the room excellently well. I don't even know how you do it. Let's talk about some sheriffs in number 5. You're a genius. After Pritzker signed the gun ban into law, an estimated 90 of Illinois' 102 sheriffs issued letters saying they believe the new gun law is a clear violation of the Second Amendment to the Constitution and they won't enforce it. Well, Tim, I'm no mathematician, but 90 out of 102 sounds like 90%.
No, that's just a simple majority. Oh, no, you're right. I mean, these people are
simple
nuts,
majority.
Yeah,
if only.
That is awesome. 90.
Maybe this is
$1,400,000,000.
Thank you, doctor. That was well timed. That was glorious. So it turns out that 90%.
90 out of 102. Let me tell you where those 12 counties are. Right around Chicago.
Exactly right. Exactly
right.
right.
Springfield.
Exactly right.
The hornet's nest of Marxism in the state.
Yep. 100%. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. So let's just paint the picture for the people of the Second Legacy, because we are artists of freedom here, Tim. It turns out that you've got, of the sheriffs who have openly said this, a 90% rejection rate over your new gun law and registration requirements. And then of the people in the state, with 2.4 million, you've got a conversion rate or capitulation rate, let's just call it that, of 0.001. That doesn't look good.
Well. No, it ain't going well. You got the sheriffs holding their middle finger up, and you got the citizens holding their middle finger up. This puts the politicians in a strange position. And why I find this so particularly funny, folks, it's not that they're scofflaws, that they're ignoring the law. The law that they passed is unconstitutional. We have no obligation
100%.
To respect laws that are in gross violation of our constitutional rights. Our founders would tell you the same to your face if they were still here. So this act of noncompliance by the sheriffs, 90 of the 102, and by the citizens, because 99.99% of them have just said nope.
Hold on. So Tim, I have to offer a correction. It's 99.999, sir. Don't you cheat in that thousandth. I want that thousandth. Okay.
Oh, too funny. Yes. And so,
it's too good.
Oh, the anti-gunners have to be so frustrated, I can just see all the anti-gunners pulling their hair out and frothing at the mouth and screaming they're going to leave the nation and all the other crazy stuff they do.
Davy's got his thumbs ready. Davy's got his thumbs ready. He's coming, by the way, guys. We got a reappearance of Davy Hogg in G3. It's going to be amazing. So that's where we're at so far. But just in case we were curious, and we didn't really land this plane, Tim, we've got something from one of the people interviewed in this article. Listen to the end of this. It's not that they're not aware of the law. The lack of registration is a massive act of civil disobedience by gun owners statewide.
Yeah.
Maybe they just don't know about it. Maybe they just don't know about it, Tim. We should do $1 million campaign, marketing campaign.
That's true, because it's true.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. That was well timed as well. He's getting good, Tim. He is getting good. So, I think in summation, this is going well in Illinois right now. And the ultimate irony, Tim, the ultimate irony is what they're going to do next. And just because this is Gun Controller 101, and tell me if you agree or disagree, but Gun Controller 101 would dictate that now they have to make an example of somebody. And so they're going to find somebody who's going to get arrested and then charged with these things after January 1 to make an example, which will then perpetuate the acceleration to the Supreme Court. And I look forward to seeing you there because this.
Yes. Because the minute they arrest somebody and charge them with this, then they have standing in the court. They have a reason to go to court. They have a reason to wind up in federal court arguing that it's in violation of their Second Amendment rights. And So once again, we see the gun grabbers painting themselves into a corner, right? By sticking by their guns and ignoring what 90 of 102 sheriffs have to say and 99.999% of gun owners have to say.
If you drop that 9 one more time.
Did I
I
thought
need
I put
my
3 of them in there.
1,000th.
Did I?
No, I need 3.
99?
You know what?
I did 3.
We're going to do a flag on the play. And Dr. Producer, he's going to come in here, or Dr. Button Pusher is going to tell on the screen in a graphic if you did it or not.
99.999% of gun owners have. I didn't eat my Wheaties this morning.
Yeah. So anyway, he had one job.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Well, now, I think it's time to move into Maryland because this is some stuff right here, Tim.
Another bastion of freedom.
A bastion, just a bastion. Yeah. Let's just leave it at that because I'll get in trouble on YouTube. Well, let's dive into this, Tim, because and so did the beautiful people of the Second Legacy, that we had a really amazing ruling come out of the Fourth Circuit around the Maryland licensing laws, right? They basically said, and that's unconstitutional AF. That's what they basically said. So they said, that's probably not a good look. Well, Tim, the Maryland police have spoken. They have. And this is number 12. Police in this blue state will continue enforcing the draconian handgun law ruled unconstitutional by the court. Now, I know this gets your goats, Tim. All your goats. The whole herd of goats. It gets them. Because they're just doing whatever the hell they want, isn't it?
Yeah, and it drives me nuts. And we've touched upon this in the past, right? When the courts hand down decisions and states ignore those decisions, other courts ignore those decisions. They just do what they want. I think that's probably one of the problems with our republic is that our founders didn't put some sort of an enforcement policy in there. I guess the courts can do certain things. They can send law enforcement and stuff like that. But we see this more and more often, I think, where they just ignore the courts and the rulings. Now, this isn't a flat out, ignoring.
Yeah, this has some nuance.
There is a nuance to it, but still, they know what they've done is wrong. They know where the court stands on this, but they're just running the clock down, and they're going to jam up as many innocent citizens of the state as they possibly can until the court undoes it. Now, what does that mean for those that are jammed up by this, where they're still enforcing it until the court finally, makes a final decision on all this? I don't know. Does that mean that the charges will be dropped? Does it mean, well, we arrested you before it was actually enforceable? So we don't know. And that's what these little tyrants want to do, I suspect, is try to jam as many people up as they possibly can before the courts actually force them to stop.
Well, they want their status quo. They don't like changing, and organizations don't like ceding power. So that's important. I have no idea, by the way. That just word that came out real weird.
They want to turn as many of us into felons as they possibly can so we can have our rights denied. So
Well, because
you know.
rights and rights, rights on rights on rights. Well, let me show you what they're doing here, because I think that's good. I think that's a good intro here. So the Maryland State Police will continue enforcing the state's handgun law for now, despite the whole ruling that rules it is unconstitutional. Quote, at this time, the HQL law remains in effect and there are no immediate changes in process to purchase a firearm in Maryland. Now, I've got the actual document we're going to bring up in a second, but effectively, it's a big FU. But the reason that they're doing it, this is an interesting piece here. So as we go into the actual licensing, understand this is what we're talking about. This is what was ruled unconstitutional. This is number 16. Maryland's handgun qualification license requires applicants to submit fingerprints for a background check, take a 4-hour firearm safety course with a live fire component, and wait up to 30 days for approval before purchasing a handgun. That's the problem, which then requires another application and a 7-day waiting period. So that's what they ruled unconstitutional. It's not hard. This is very simple. You're telling me I have to have a license and a waiting period before I can partake in a right.
Yep.
Why is this difficult?
And the Constitution says this is not allowed, right? And the courts have determined this is not allowed. So if a FFL goes out there and completes a transaction based upon the court's decision, pending decision, however you want to word that, then they can be charged. And I would imagine the person buying the gun may be charged too. I don't know. And that is, maybe they could even lose their license over it. In this interim,
and there's there's real world complications. There's consequences. Right.
So I mean, hopefully,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
See, we don't step on each other very much. This must be emotional for us, man. It's a thing. So here's the shtick. They're hanging this up on. We don't have to do it until the federal court issues a mandate, and I think that's interesting because they've already said it's unconstitutional. Right. Wouldn't you think that? Well, since it's unconstitutional and I have to abide by the Constitution, I can't do this anymore. No. They go, no, you didn't tell me what I had to do. You only said it's bad. It's kind of like when you catch a kid lying and you go, that's not, you can't lie. I didn't lie. Oh, we're still doing this. Oh, yep. Okay. Well,
so, I mean,
this is annoying.
And I guess the reason why this rubs me so wrong is because, I am partners in a gun store in FFL. And it's already a mess of laws and regulations and what you can and can't do. Like a gun store owner cannot help guide somebody in answering questions on a 4473 form. If they ask you what something means, you can't give them any answers. And they'll send in agents to sting you to see if you do that and stuff. So they're always looking for angles to bring FFLs down. So when a court makes a decision like this, there are going to be FFLs out there like, oh yeah, the court decided in our favor, and so they're going to go about conducting business as normal. But then the state police is saying, no, you still have to do this, and we're going to enforce this until we get our mandate. And so that's what really drives me nuts about this, because again, they're going after individuals, and I think that they're looking to jam up FFLs. We already know the ATF has revoked the licenses of thousands. Yeah, they just go nuts revoking licenses for just ridiculous reasons that before were just not even enforced, or I mean, you might get a nasty letter in the mail. Now you lose your license and everybody's out of a job.
And so this is important, just in case for any gun grabbers watching. Something that you just said is key. They weren't enforced. What he's talking about is like spelling errors on 4473s.
Right.
He's not talking about background checks and Nick's background check. He's not talking about any of that stuff. You are literally talking about things like street versus court or circle versus boulevard.
And if you abbreviated it, did you use the postal abbreviation or did you use a non-standard abbreviation? Because now it's an invalid form if you used a non-standard, non-postal abbreviation on something, right? So, it's insanity, and well,
I think that's important to clarify.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so now here in this, before we get to the Maryland announcement, then we get to G3. This is what they're saying. This is what they're hanging their whole argument on, Tim. Listen to this. This is number 20, button pusher or doc, whatever you want today. Maryland officials have 14 days to file for a rehearing before the full appeals court. If the state does not file within that window, the court will issue a mandate 7 days later, which means the final court ruling would be December 11th. So, dude, I think you used the example earlier of paying your taxes in pennies. That's exactly what they are doing here. That's exactly it. They're just running the clock down.
Games. Yep, they're running the clock down playing games. Yep.
Yeah. That's exactly what
they're doing. With people's rights, no less. This isn't just, it's
that's the
disgusting.
Thing. That's the
at every
thing.
level. Yeah.
Right. It's gross. And we've got the Maryland actual announcement basically saying from the police what we just covered. It's linked. But I think, Tim, it's a good time to dive into G3 to end on a light note. Well, not even a light note, just a note.
Okay, so you gave me a choice. I'm going to give you a choice. Do you want to go back to our old friend K-12 school shooting database, or do you want to throw in some Davy Hogg? It's up to you.
You know how I love me some Davy Hogg. I absolutely adore me some Davy Hogg.
All right, well, Doc, let's go ahead and stick up number 21 on the screen for our loyal viewers. Old Davy Hogg. There's a multi-billion-dollar school shooter industrial complex. He's using Cold War terminology there. In the United States, now focused on stopping kids from getting murdered in school, while other countries just protect kids, not guns. And then he's retweeted this thing I've seen many times before with a false wall that's, presumably bulletproof or something. It's like a mobile,
right.
Or a fold-away safe room. And he's basically, once again, just like K-12, advocating for not putting security in schools. But then in 2 sentences, he contradicts himself.
100%.
We have this shooter industrial complex, military industrial complex. Sound familiar? It's phrasing tried to elicit an emotional response. And he's saying, they're putting these school system, multi-billion-dollar security industry in America, and it's to protect guns, not kids, when other countries protect kids, not guns.
It's so asinine.
It's so ridiculous. And within
so
2
asinine.
sentences, this man managed to contradict himself. 2 sentences. First sentence, the second sentence contradicts the first sentence. And this goes to, like I said before, they need the carnage. And I know that sometimes you want to push back on this because sometimes I get a little extreme, but they need the carnage because they need the numbers, because that's how they push their agenda, right? That's why this doesn't make any sense. It couldn't possibly make sense what he's trying to say here. But yet he posts it anyway. And like I said, he contradicts himself within 2 sentences. What a joke. And then he goes on even further.
I think so.
Yeah. And if you take a look at then he posted to his own post talking about, who else this helps? I mean, this is such a crazy stretch. Our enemies. It helps China, folks. Us trying to secure our schools helps China and other authoritarian countries make the case for why democracy. There he goes again. He had Republic right, like in the last couple of days.
He did it once.
You
gave him some credit. Right. You gave him some credit.
I did. I gave him credit, and he's right back to democracy. Doesn't work. If you can't stop kids from getting slaughtered in school, it's hard to justify why we should claim to lead the free world. Oh, yeah. Perfect connection there. That makes total sense.
What?
Yeah.
Right? Totally good. Totally good.
So again, it's an emotional play, right? You hate communism, right? You hate China, right? Well, China, they're going to look at this and they're going to say, oh, you can't lead the free world. You have a multi-billion-dollar school shooter industrial complex. You're not a democracy.
No, they're going to look at our president.
I mean, what kind of mental gymnastics is this moron doing? This is a Harvard graduate, folks. This is a guy that paid an exorbitant amount of money for a college education, and he can't even figure out what system of government we have.
Did he? Did he pay that? Do you think he paid that? Really, Tim? Come on. You think he paid that?
What?
You think he paid that? You think?
No, I'm sure. I'm sure somebody paid it for him.
I'm pretty sure he was on activist scholarship. Anyway,
yeah, he probably
that's just conjecture, people.
Or something. We don't know.
That's just conjecture.
I don't care enough to find out.
So now let me get a crack at this. Exactly. I don't give 2 rats. All right. Well, now let me get a crack at this because I think that was an amazing assessment of the current situation with the Davy Hogg. I believe it was President Dwight D. Eisenhower, that said, beware of the military-industrial complex. Am I correct, Tim?
Yes, he is. He did say that.
I think that's the guy.
He warned against it.
Yeah.
Yes. And this,
on his way out of office.
Yep. And Davey he's invoking that.
Yeah.
But in the reverse. I mean,
no, exactly. No. So that's what I wanted to hit on. So what he's actively saying here is you have to understand the backstory on this. So Eisenhower was saying, beware of the military-industrial complex because they want to propagate wars. This is the theory of what he was saying. They want to propagate wars in order to make more money and then continue in a never-ending state of war to make more money for the military complex so they get more power and influence. That was the idea. So now Davy Hogg is saying, I mean, like, listen. I'm doing a really good job walking on a tightrope, and you're kind of just like being the wind
I
in
just
the
jumped
room
right
right
off
now.
of it.
So
I just jumped right off of it. Go ahead.
It's just wee. No, it's good. It's good. So
That's who I am.
the multi-billion-dollar school shooter industrial complex, that would imply that there's an entire industry that wants to propagate school shootings in order to have a multi-billion-dollar response to the school shootings that they are propagating, ending up in a never-ending cycle of shootings and hardening schools. The only one flaw with that, Tim, and it's a minor flaw, they spend all of their time saying they don't want to harden schools.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you have a look at these evil people making so much money from hardening schools because of these horrible incidents? But by the way, we're not going to allow you to harden schools because of these horrible incidents.
Right.
It is
How
the
dare
most
you?
cyclical, stupid logic. Because the children are the future. That's the most important thing. We're not going to protect them because that would make it school like a prison. But when these things happen, it's obviously you don't need gun rights. And if you want to protect the school, then you're making money off of a terrible issue. It is dude.
Yeah. Stop protecting
You
guns.
cannot get in here.
Yeah. Stop protecting kids. Ban the guns. That's their shtick, right? We don't really
But
care about
it's
school
any
safety.
avenue. It's no, 100%. That's my whole point. It's a sliding scale of, as long as I get what I want, I will take whatever side I want. You can't protect children. Let's harden schools. No, we can't do that. That'll be prison. You want to support gun rights? Oh, you just want to kill everything that moves. What are you?
Right.
What do you want? And the more in the I think this is an important piece. This is what I'm kind of trying to get at and trying to land this plane. The more we highlight the fact that anything that we do to say let's stop this, they shoot down, it makes them look like more of. Almost went down a road there. It makes them look more suspicious than the actual issue itself because they're not solving the problem when it's offered. It's basically my way or the highway. And by the way, the consequences of not doing my way are more perpetuating of the entire system for the billion-dollar school shooter industrial complex.
Right. Yeah, you would think. I mean, logic would dictate, since we have a constitution protecting certain rights, that perhaps you would try other things first before going after constitutional rights, like maybe securing our schools. I mean, as unreasonable as that sounds, we secure everything in this nation.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything has security in this nation. Just not schools,
Everything does.
because it really doesn't work in schools. Everywhere else, it's fine. It just doesn't work in schools. The only way to stop violence in schools is just to ban guns. That should do it, because it's worked so fabulously globally. It hasn't. So it's just unbelievable. And they try to justify this position by saying things like school shooter industrial complex. It's evil trying to protect kids. Okay, sure.
It's just asinine. But you know what? I did enjoy that trip down Davy Hogg Lane. Thanks for that. My blood pressure is now elevated.
I know, it makes you want to just
the Davy effect.
Punch a kitten or something. These guys just push you over the edge of just like,
dude, my goodness. I didn't know what was going to come out of your mouth. I was like, punch what, Tim? Punch what? Oh my God, punch what?
I know. I have to watch myself sometimes. All right, so
I have to watch
Doc,
it sometimes.
Let's go ahead and jump into number 22. All right. Number 22, our friends over at K-12 School Shooting Database. Oh, they're just a wealth of knowledge over there. All right, so this is a passive-aggressive response to me tweeting back at these guys and their claims that we can't secure our schools. Once again, they're arguing that securing schools is a fool's errand. The only real solution to curbing violence is stripping you of your constitutional rights. And so I tweeted, hey, because he said, you can't secure this school, this middle school, because it has houses around it, has, X number of doors, it has all these things. And it just isn't possible to secure it. Therefore, ban the guns. And I said, well, that's funny. We have this thing. And I posted a picture of the White House and said, it has 400 doors, 200 windows, 16 rooms, or 162 rooms, or whatever. I mean, this massive structure. I said, we've somehow managed to secure this for hundreds of years, even without modern technology. So what you're saying is we can secure the White House, but we can't secure a school. Well, his natural response was, well, you know how much it costs to secure the White House? Oh boy. Anyway, I'm like, you don't have to put missiles on the roof of a school, dude. You don't need a fleet of Secret Service officers that are, overpaid compared to your regular run-of-the-mill police officer. But so then he goes down this path of, the average cost of a police officer is $149,000 a year. There's a lot of police officers who like to get that. Staffing 10 positions requires 16 officers, leave training, and then $2.3 million to secure this average-sized middle school. And then he goes on to throw out more numbers and all this other stuff, and more than 100 times the entire Secret Service budget. Again, a passive-aggressive response to me without naming me to something that I pointed out the hypocrisy of his post. And so he's trying to justify his position yet again. And then people go on, and I responded to this and said, well, how many billions have we sent overseas funding other people's wars? How many billions have we sent overseas propping up other governments and just trying to influence global economics and political positions and things like that? You have no problem printing money to fund everything globally, but the minute somebody suggests printing money to secure our schools, can't do it.
Can't do it. We are a fiscally responsible nation, I will have you know, sir.
Right.
We do not just print money and exist under modern monetary theory where money has no value, inflation doesn't exist, and money supply doesn't matter.
Yep.
This is the new world, Tim, except when it comes to hardening schools. We'll
print money for everything in the world, but we won't do it for children.
Exactly.
But we'll take your rights.
The place. Exactly. The place that rhymes with shmooshmrain and the other place that rhymes with Disrael. Those places, it turns out that's money well spent. Money well spent, Tim. Yep. And all the stimulus and all the money printing and the increasing of the money supply that we did and the M3, all these pieces, that's fine. Mm-hmm. It's fine because inflation doesn't exist in real life, except when it comes to hardening these schools. After all, there is a $1 billion school shooter industrial complex, Tim, and we will not have it.
I know. It's amazing.
We won't.
And these people are amazing. The mental gymnastics they pull just trying to justify their positions. I don't think they realize how idiotic they actually look in all of this.
It's pretty rough.
It's pretty special. So, guys, if you see some pretty funny, goofy gun grabbers out there posting on social media and it's not behind a paywall or something, post those links down below because I'd like to see what they're out there talking about. So maybe we can feature some of those comments here. Thanks for watching Second Legacy, and we'll talk to you guys soon.